Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 332nd Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you'll see that this is a flat, featureless map. This is a flatlands map, which we fight most of our battles on. As you know, I like to fight on different kind of maps sometimes, but as you can see on this particular one, it's the flatlands. Our first teammate is Brotherhood member Gladius, who has bought the the Greek cities faction. Now, when this battle was fought, Gladius chose the Greek cities faction because that was his faction of choice. And if you notice there, I think he's got 13 Spartan units. And as you can see, he's got gold shield, gold attack on most of his units there. But as we go down this battle line there, you can see that unit's only got 5 upgrades on. And as we get further down, you can see that these units here have got 4, 3 and 3. Now we probably use those as pilot shield units, but as I said before, yes, the Spartans have got excellent morale, excellent specifications and 2 hit points, but I always think that to get the most out of them, they need gold shield, gold attack on them. But maybe if he's going to use those units as pilot shield units, that might be okay. But I always would recommend players that take Greek cities to put gold shield, gold attack on them, because I think that's, as I said before, that's where you get the most out of the Spartans there. I see he's got, what's he got there? I think it's 6 Cretan archers, long range, can do a lot of damage. So that's pretty interesting, a Greek cities army there. Should be interesting to see how well it does. As I say, when this battle was fought, Greek cities was Gladius's faction of choice. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks, who has bought the Rome Julii faction. Steve, Legion and myself have been playing RTW since it first came out, so we've got quite a bit of experience there between us, and I think he's got 15 infantry units. And I think and he's also got an Eagle unit there for extra morale. Now notice he hasn't put any upgrades on that Eagle unit, and that's because he's just bought that solely for morale, and will keep that unit out of the battle for as long as he possibly can. Obviously with no upgrades and fighting urbans, that unit would be killed quite quickly, but he's bought it just for the morale there. And I see Steve's got 5 cavalry, and I see he's got 7 upgrades on his cavalry. So that's an experienced stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So yeah, that's a pretty interesting army there that Steve's bought. You see there on his general, he's only got 6 upgrades, so he's just got gold shield, gold attack on his general there, but he'll probably keep the general out of battle as long as he can as well. And our third teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought also bought the Rome Julii faction. Now this particular army that I was using about 3 years ago, if you notice, I've got a legionary first cohort in there, which I bought for extra morale for my troops. I think actually Steve and myself have got basically possibly the same type of army here, because obviously if you bring the legionary first cohort, that always adds a little bit more morale to your fighting troops. So not only have you got your general giving the general morale bonus, you've also got the Eagle unit giving that Eagle unit bonus as well, which all helps for morale. And when you get down to the last part of the battle and your troops are fighting, tired, exhausted, if you've got that extra bit of morale, that can make a difference. And as I say, I've got 6 cavalry units there as well. So, as I say, Gladius, Steve Longshanks and myself have been playing RTW since it first came out, so we've certainly got a lot of experience. But you wait till you see the team we're fighting. This should be a great battle for you to watch, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at Gladius's Greek cities army here, and give you a little bit of history about the Spartans as well. As you can see here, he split his army up a little bit here. He's got his main army here, with his general in it, and he's got 2 units off to right there to protect his flank, and also he's got a mini army there as well, as you can see, and 6 Cretan archers we saw earlier. Okay, if you remember a couple of months ago, we talked about the Spartans, about how boys were taken from their families at 7 and then intensely trained for 14 years in all aspects of warfare. And also we talked about the Battle of Thermopylae, or the Hot Gates as it's sometimes known, where Leonidas and his 300 with Greek allies held the pass there. But today I thought we'd talk about Spartan weaponry. Now a lot of you might not know much about Spartan weaponry, so I thought I hope you would find this quite interesting. Did you know that Spartans had to supply their own sword, shield, spear and armour as well. Very often a Spartan would be stood on the battlefield wearing his grandfather's armour, using his grandfather's shield, grandfather's sword and spear. Because the price of these things were so dear that, as I say, they were passed down from generation to generation. Now, a lot of you would probably watched the film The 300 and seen the weaponry that they've used there. Well, the spear that the Spartans used was called the dory. D-O-R-Y, dory. And this was approximately 6 to 9 feet long, which is 2.1 to 2.7 meters. It had a bronze or metal leaf-shaped spearhead. And the shaft was very unusual. It's a very dense wood the shaft was made of, very strong, dense wood that was called cornel wood. And it was so thick and dense that if you put it in water, it will sink to the bottom, which is obviously very unusual for wood. But that's how strong and dense the wood was used for the shaft of the spear. And it had the actual handle had leather strips around it, for better grip for the Spartans there. And the butt also had a spike on the end called a saurator. It's spelled S-A-U-R-O-T-E-R, saurator. In Greek that stands for Greek lizard killer. Lizard killer, I believe. It could be used to stand the spear up, so obviously when you came to rest, you just thrust that saurator into the ground and your spear would remain vertical. So of course, if ever you needed it quick, you could just grab it quickly and use it. Also, it was used as the Spartans advanced over dead troops, dead enemy troops there, holding their spears vertically. If they came across a wounded enemy soldier, they would just drop the spear, the end of the spear, the saurator, into that enemy to finish him off as they walked over him. Also, if the shaft of their spear was broken at all, they could then turn the spear around and fight with the saurator as a secondary weapon as well. So that dory was quite a very useful weapon, and that's something that they really used really well. Now, when it comes to swords, the secondary weapon for them, they had two choices. They had a short stabbing sword, which was about 12 to 18 inches long, called the zippos. It's spelled X-I-P-H-O-S, but I think it is pronounced the zippos. And this was, as I say, a short stabbing sword that they used to use. A bit like the Romans did, they could stab between their shields into the enemy as they advanced forward. Their favourite target was the groin or the throats of the enemy with this particular sword. But the main sword that it appears that most Spartans liked was a sword called the kopis. Now this was a vicious hacking sword. It was a thick curved iron sword. And you could stab with it if you wanted to, but its main use was a hacking sword. And the Spartans used to enjoy literally hacking their enemy to death. And it is said, when the enemy saw the Spartans draw the kopis, it put fear into their hearts, because they knew how well the Spartans could use this vicious hacking weapon. So that was the kopis there. And then we move on to the shield. Now, the Spartan shield, official name was called the aspis, A-S-P-I-S, aspis, but it was more commonly known as the hoplon, H-O-P-L-O-N, hoplon. And this was a heavy shield that weighed about 30 pounds, which of course is very heavy. And of course, it was made of thick wood with a bronze outer coating. Now obviously a shield is there to protect you against swords, spears, arrows, etc. But also the Spartans used to use this shield as a weapon to bludgeon their enemy to death. So they would use the edge of that shield there to either smash into the head of the enemy. Now, even if the enemy is wearing a helmet, the impact of that heavy shield hitting you on the head is going to stun you, giving them enough time to kind of finish you off with other weapons, or to continue bashing you with a shield. There's lots of accounts of enemy being actually bludgeoned to death with just using the shields, the edge of the shield, to kill them. And you know, it makes you think that terrible kopis sword that we talked about earlier, where they actually hacked people to death with that particular sword. I wonder which the enemy would prefer, to be hacked to death by the kopis, or to hear and feel their own bones being broken, being bludgeoned to death by this heavy shield, the edge of the heavy shield. So they actually you know, they actually did use a shield as a weapon as well. Remember, these troops were actually bred for warfare. That's all they were, to kill the enemy in any way they could. So to turn a defensive implement like the shield into an attacking, killing implement was kind of typical of what the Spartans did. Also, those of you that might have watched the 300, did you see that in the 300 you didn't see that they were wearing body armor? Well, actually, in reality, those Spartan troops at Thermopylae and or the Hot Gates, as it's sometimes called, would have been wearing body armor. Obviously, because you know, that's something that was a standard thing they would wear, and I believe they would also wear leg protectors as well, metal leg protectors too. So when you see the 300, a lot of the aspects of the combat using the spear and the sword and things like that is very real, but actually they would have been wearing body armor. And as I say, it surprised me when I read that because of the cost of spears, shields, body armor, helmets, etc., that they passed them down through the generations. Because you think, you know, sometime during the course of a battle a spear would be broken, or armor would be damaged, or swords would be damaged. So actually to pass these items down through the generation was quite a surprise to me. Also, of course, as you know, Spartans would never retreat or run away from a battle, because if you think about it, if you were wearing your grandfather's armor, using your grandfather's spear and swords, you've heard of how brave your relatives have been fighting. To drop your shield, drop your sword and run away would of course be so disrespectful and so bad in so many different ways. Not only are you kind of abandoning the Spartan values, but also you're disrespecting your relatives that stood and fought as well. So maybe, you know, using relatives' equipment would inspire Spartans to fight even more, because obviously they're very proud of the heritage of their family there. So that's why that's maybe a reason why that was passed down, as well as obviously the expense. Let's say in this game, as you can see, the Spartans have got 2 hit points, excellent morale, excellent specifications, and I think, as I said before, the game makers of RTW wanted to try and give these Spartans as much edge as they could, and to try and can I say, reproduce what the Spartans would have really been like with the specifications they've given them. So I hope you found this chat about the weaponry that the Spartan used quite interesting, and this should be a great battle for you to watch, and I hope you enjoy it. And let's see how this Spartan army does. And here is the other team. We have Brotherhood member Uther, who has bought the Rome Scipii faction. And I think he's got 11 infantry units there, including, I think from what I could see, I can see an eagle unit there. Yeah, he's got 11 infantry and his eagle unit there. Of course, he's bought the eagle unit to give a morale bonus to his infantry, because his general's a cavalry general. So whether his cavalry general's off running around with his own cavalry, that eagle unit would give morale to his fighting infantry. And if you notice that his cavalry armor general here is fully upgraded. So that's 3 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So that's a really serious armored unit there. And then he's got his 5 cavalry units there, which I'm guessing going to be well upgraded. He always brings serious cavalry. There you go, 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack there on that cavalry. So make no mistake, this cavalry is really serious cavalry. And with that general with him as well, giving that general morale bonus, that makes that army really tough. Should be interesting to see how well Uther's army does. A tried and tested army there. Our next teammate is a Brotherhood member called himself Ambang. As you know, when I'm doing a commentary and cavalry charge, and I very often say Ambang as the cavalry goes on. So he's making a bit of a joke there by calling himself Ambang. But I think it is actually Brotherhood member Killer B, if I remember right. But this battle was fought a couple of years ago, but I think that is Brotherhood member Killer B. As you can see, he's bought the Macedon faction here. If you notice there, he's got about 4 lines of pikemen there. You know, he's got 7 upgrades, so that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack on there. And then he's got a break there, and then he's got the cheap levy pikeman unit there, 120 man there. But as long as they soak up pilers, then that's fine. But you see, he's got 4 lines of pikemen there, so it'd be interesting to see how well that does. And then he's got 6 of the companion cavalry. Now remember, this companion cavalry, it's got 7 upgrades, and that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. Their specifications are really good. As we said before, very often they're called the winged horsemen because of the kind of wings on their helmets there. But that companion cavalry with good upgrades are really tough. So that's a pretty good Macedon army there. Should be interesting to see how well it does. And their third teammate is RTW player Kornovi Tribe, or One Eye, as a lot of you might know him. I think also he calls himself Deathclaw as well. But as you can see there, it's a very unusual Roman formation there. No pilot shield unit, got it in 2 lines and 2 out the front. Very, very unusual 31k formation there. And if you notice, he's got his cavalry in a big lump. Now, we have seen this in years gone by, and people with 6 cavalry. You can imagine that's a massive lump of cavalry there when you've got 6, but that's unusual to see. Should be interesting battle to watch. Okay, at this early stage of the battle, very early stage of the battle, you can see that we formed up here on the left side of the battlefield, and can you see that the 2 enemy Roman teams are moving towards us, but the Macedon general is not. Now, if you notice, when we looked at the Macedon army, he didn't have any archers, and he spotted that Gladius has got 6 long-range Cretan archers. So the last thing the Macedon general wants is to come into range of those 6 Cretan archers. Remember, those 120-man units are incredibly susceptible to missile damage. So that, as I say, the last thing that Macedon general wants to do is to hang around within archer range of those Cretan archers, because he will lose loads of men to those Cretan archers. I see his allies only bought 2 archers as well there to cover him, so it'll be interesting to see how the Macedon general moves that army, bearing in mind he really will not want to come into range for too long under those Cretan archers there before he actually gets into combat. As you can see, the Scipii are moving forward there. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle, we just paused the game. You can see the Macedon army is now moving forward. Gladius has moved his Cretan archers back over to behind his troops there. But if you notice here, you can see Uther's got his cavalry out to the right flank here, and the Macedon general has got his cavalry out to the right flank as well. So it possibly looks like the enemy are looking to strike on our right flank there. And you can see that Kornovi is moving his cavalry out to that direction, over to the left flank there. So it certainly does look like the enemy might be looking to hit Steve on the right flank here. But if you notice here, you can see that we are outnumbered by the cavalry, by the enemy cavalry there. Obviously, when Greek cities are brought to your team, you do put your team at a cavalry disadvantage, so you must have to make up for that. I think the enemy have got 14 cavalry against our 11, I think. 6 and 5, yeah, it's about... so they have got a cavalry advantage here. It should be interesting to see how well they do with it. Let's say here on our right flank, you can see that there's a bit of skirmishing going on between Uther's blue Scipii troops and Steve's red Julii troops there. Be interesting to see how Uther uses that fully upgraded armoured cavalry general. Remember, with a fully upgraded armoured cavalry general, it's already got good specifications. To fully upgrade it, it's makes it a super unit. There you are, he's going to charge it into that Julii, and bang, as that unit hits. Let's say usually he uses that unit as a harassing and haranguing unit there. There's lots of pilots exchanges still going on there at this stage. Right, as you can see, the Macedon general didn't want to hang around there under archer fire, so what he's done is he's charged the Macedon army straight in to Gladius's Greek cities army there. As I say, he didn't want to stand around getting killed by Cretan archers, so he's gone straight into combat here to engage the troop. Can you see how long those Macedon pikes are against the Spartan spears? So remember, those Spartan troops have got to fight all the way down those long pikes to kill the man on the other end, but you can certainly see the difference in length there of the pikes and the spears. So it'd be interesting to see how well it does there. But of course, Gladius's Cretan archers will be shooting into those Macedon pikemen as much as they can, causing as many casualties as they can there. But you can see here the Macedon general taking his cavalry round behind us. It wouldn't surprise me if you'd like to target Gladius's Cretan archers there. So it'll be interesting to see how this massive long-piked Macedon spearmen do against Gladius's Greek city units here. As our centre is obviously very important. If our centre breaks, then of course the enemy could then pour troops in between us and then separate our two flanking armies there. So see the Scipii troops moving forward there, enemy Scipii troops moving forward. Over here on the left flank here, you can see that the green Bruttii troops, cavalry, have just attacked my pilot shield units there. But if you notice there, can you see how the green Brutii cavalry are now charging through our lines there to hit Gladius's archers there. If you notice, Gladius is alt-attacked with his archers there, to try and counter that cavalry attack. As you can see here, the Macedon and Greek cities, pike and spearmen, are really fighting it out there in the centre. If you notice, I'm sending my Julii cavalry over to try and counter those Brutii cavalry that has just attacked those Cretan archers there. But I say this is a very early stage of the battle at the moment here. That Brutii formation is very strange Brutii formation. It'll be interesting to see how well it does. As you can see here, I'm throwing pilers and attacking that Brutii formation. But our centre here, as you can see, a lot of those Macedon units are pushing forward into Gladius's Spartans there. And over on the right flank here, you can see Steve is not only having to put up with the enemy Scipio troops attacking him, but there's Macedon cavalry out to his right flank as well. So Steve looks like he's the target there over on that right flank. As you can see here, my cavalry now will be trying to chase down that Brutii cavalry to stop them trying to get into the rear of our attacking troops. As I say here, between the green Brutii troops and my Julii troops, a lot of pilot exchanging going on there. If you notice that the Brutii general is sending some units over to attack Gladius's Greek city units there. And if you notice, one Macedon pike unit has actually broken through Gladius's battle line there. But Gladius has sent a unit over to deal with that. And here comes Uther's cavalry, and bang, as that cavalry hits straight into one of Steve's Julii units there. Nice cavalry hit there by Uther. Now, as you can see, Steve is counter-attacking with his Julii cavalry. But did you notice that Macedon cavalry ready to attack? Now notice Steve's put 2 infantry units out there to try and put off that Macedon cavalry attack, but the Macedon general has gone round that infantry to smash into the rear of Steve's engagement. Let's just pause the game for a second. So this is a nice move by the Macedon general. As you can see, Steve put 2 infantry units out there to try and stop that Macedon cavalry coming in behind him, which he knew that he would, but the Macedon general has avoided those 2 infantry units and gone round them to smash into the rear of Steve's engaged cavalry. Nice move by the Macedon general here. If you notice that Uther's being very aggressive, also attacking from the front with his cavalry and infantry. So it looks to me like Steve is a real target here that they're trying to take out. There's a lot of pressure on Steve here. Meanwhile, in our centre here, you can see that Gladius is still holding there. His archers are still shooting into those Macedonian troops. And over here on the left flank, you can see I'm engaging the enemy Brutii troops there. It looks like my cavalry is just recovering from a glitch. I can see that they're just, as you can see there, it looks like he's just recovering. So it looked like my cavalry glitched sometime during the course of this battle. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have used it a little bit more, definitely, in probably attacking the Brutii or going over to help Steve. So over on our right flank here, as you can see, things not looking very good. Macedon cavalry charging into the rear of Steve's engaged cavalry there. And as you can see, Uther's cavalry and infantry charging in the front, and now Steve's well-upgraded cavalry there has now mostly been routed by the enemy attack. That was a really nice coordinated enemy attack there onto our right flank, and poor Steve took the brunt of that, all that cavalry and infantry there. So that was a massive hit there. Steve still got quite a lot of infantry left there, but our right flank does look in peril. As we move up the battle line here, you can see our centre still holding. If you notice, I'm charging my cavalry in here, hoping to smash into that Brutii infantry, and bang, as that cavalry hits. Now what I think it looks like I'm going to do is take my cavalry on through the enemy troops there. Right, let's just pause the game for a second here. So I'm smashing through the enemy line with my cavalry. They're looking to go through the enemy line and then come into the flank of these engaged enemy Brutii troops there, is what it looks like I'm doing there. But meanwhile, Gladius is holding on here against those Macedon pikemen, doing really well. But as I say, over on our right flank here, can you see that Uther's done a surgical hit with his cavalry and has routed Steve's general. That was a nice surgical hit there by Uther's cavalry, deliberately aiming for Steve's general there. So now Steve's general has been routed. Of course, the general morale bonus will not be there for his troops, and his troops are already under a lot of pressure. So our right flank is really hanging in the air at the moment and could break. Also here, can you see the Macedon general has charged his cavalry into the flank of Gladius's engaged Spartan units there. So to say, at the moment here on our right and even in the centre there, things not looking very good for our team. let's say this battle was fought, I think, 2 to 3 years ago. So the actual tactics that we did, I can't obviously really remember there, but I can see here the Macedon general's dead. Good, so that's going to lower the morale of the Macedon troops. As you can see here, I've burst through the enemy battle line here with my cavalry, and now going to charge into the flank of those engaged Brutii infantry there, and bang, as that cavalry goes in. Okay, so now you can see that these 2 Brutii units have been routed. Now what I need to do is start attacking the enemy battle line here from left to right in an attempt to try and roll up the enemy battle line here. As you can see, there's Macedon cavalry got in behind Gladius, probably going to go for his general there. Yep. Now he's smashed into the rear of Gladius's general there, routing that general. So of course now all the Greek cities' morale will now falter. As you can see here over on the right flank, Steve's putting in his cavalry has rallied. He's throwing in those cavalry units there to try and neutralise the enemy attack. But remember, the enemy are the blue and we are the red on this flank. So Steve's doing incredibly well. Remember, he was hit by Macedon cavalry as well as that really well upgraded Scipii cavalry there. Let's just pause the game, take stock of exactly what's happening. So you see here, Steve's Eagle unit has been routed as well, so he's lost that bonus. As you can see, the last of Gladius's Spartans have now been taken out by Macedon. So basically our Greek city allies, after a terrific fight, has now been taken out. Okay, so that is Gladius was doing extremely well there, but is now his entire army has been taken out. And Steve's right flank here, he's doing really well, but things not looking very good there. So our centre and right flank look pretty bad at the moment. As I say, Gladius did extremely well against the forces that he was up against there. But as I say, looks like all the Greek cities units have now been taken out. As you can see here, I'm battling with the green Brutii troops. You can see some green Brutii cavalry have got in behind my infantry there, smashing into my general unit there. As you can see, a nice hit there by the Brutii general. But if you notice, I've got my cavalry charging in to try and neutralise those green Brutii infantry there. And bang, as that cavalry goes in. And I'm hoping to cause a lot of casualties. If I can't rout any of those Brutii units, I think that cavalry hitting them would have caused a heck of a lot of casualties to them. So my guess is I'm going to pull that cavalry back out. Did you notice that? I charged my cavalry and got the full cavalry charge bonus, and now pulling them back out. Pulling them back out to lock and load them and ready to charge back in. Remember, pull the hammer back on that rifle, pull the trigger when you're ready, and smash back in with your cavalry. Right, some more Brutii cavalry coming in behind me, and bang, as that cavalry hits. Once again going for my general. Maybe if he'd have put that unit into wedge formation, he'd got more penetration into my units there. You can see my cavalry is counter-attacking, and once again, bang, as that cavalry goes in, trying to neutralise that Brutii cavalry. I suppose the game to take stock exactly what's going on here. Okay, so over here on the left flank, I'm fighting the Brutii troops, but if you notice, Steve's army over on the right, after a ferocious fight, has been defeated, and Uther's now bringing over his blue Scipii troops here to attack me as well. Also, there's Macedon pikemen attacking my troops as well. There's Macedon cavalry and some more Brutii infantry moving over to my flank here. So as I say, things not looking very good for our team. Steve and Gladius fought extremely well, but as you can see, our right flank, Steve's got some units that have rallied there over on the right flank. What I'm hoping for is he can charge those units into the rear of these enemy troops. So I'm really glad his units have rallied there, because we're going to need all the troops we can get here. But as you can see here, things not looking very good for our team now, and I would think it possibly would only be a matter of time before my army is overwhelmed here by the enemy troops. As you can see here, there's that companion cavalry, that Macedon companion cavalry, looking to get in behind me there, but I managed to neutralise them with my cavalry. You can see the enemy charging forward there. You can see enemy cavalry attack going in, and bang, as that cavalry goes in, probably going to rout that unit. Yeah, routed that unit there. So you can see my poor red army there now is really under a heck of a lot of pressure there against Scipii, Brutii and Macedon troops there. But luckily my general's still alive, and I think my Eagle unit's still alive, so I'm giving my infantry a lot of morale, and I've still got a lot of cavalry left, so there's still a bit of hope there. And Steve's bringing in those rallied units there. He's running those rallied units in to get in behind the enemy as well. So, but it's all on a knife edge at the moment. You can see the enemy troops really piling on the pressure onto my troops here. But as I say, I've got my general and my Eagle unit there, giving morale to my infantry. Right, can you see my cavalry charging back in again? Pulled the hammer back on the rifle, pulled the trigger, and bang, as that cavalry hits. straight into the front of those engaged enemy troops there. Now, I might not have routed many enemy units there, but I reckon I caused a lot of casualties there to the enemy troops. Remember, charged in once again. I know we talk about this a lot. Charged in, got the 4 cavalry charge bonus. I don't want to hang around there with my cavalry fighting infantry. Pull my cavalry back out. I noticed that the Scipii cavalry general was there. I was probably looking to try and take him out there with my cavalry, and my guess is that he will run off. Right, you can see Steve's rallied infantry. He's brought them back in to the battle, back into the fray, charging into the rear of the engaged enemy troops. So well done to Steve, bringing those back in there. If you notice there, I'm pulling my cavalry back, trying to chase off that Brutii cavalry that would like to charge into the rear of my engaged troops. If you notice a Macedon cavalry there charging into the back of Steve's troops there. I can see a couple of the enemy units starting to rout. Remember, that Scipii general still alive, still giving a morale bonus to his troops there. And if you notice that Uther's keeping that general close to his troops there, making sure he's giving them the full general morale bonus there. But well done to Steve, bringing those rallied units in behind the enemy there. See, I'm charging my cavalry, and again, bang, as that cavalry hits. If you notice what I've been doing with my cavalry, I've been pulling them back, rallying them, charging them back in. Each time causing big casualties to the enemy troops there. And if you notice that Brutii archer unit's been firing, shooting fire arrows into the rear of my troops all the way through this. There's some Brutii troops there charging into the back of Steve's rallied troops. He's routed that Eagle unit of Steve, so of course Steve's units now will lose that Eagle unit bonus that they would have been getting. But if you notice here, remember we are the red here, and if you notice that the enemy are the blue, the green and Macedon. So just at a glance there you can see how things are looking for us. Right, I'm going to charge my cavalry in again. Remember, I've seen what I've been doing backwards and forwards with that cavalry, and bang, as that cavalry goes in again. This time we've routed the Scipii, I think an Eagle unit there. So now we're running our troops forward. Can you see how Steve's running his troops forward? Can you see how I'm running my troops forward here? Really aggressively attacking what's left of the enemy infantry there. And we've managed to take out that enemy infantry there. Let's just pause the game here because this battle was so intense for a 3v3. You can see the dead. Right, can you see this battle line here of where the Macedons and the Spartans were fighting? You can see the red cloaked dead Spartans and the Macedon units there all the way along that battle line. That just goes to show how intense the fighting was there between those long piked Macedons and the Spartans. And over on the right flank here, where Steve held off the attack for so long, really did well against the Scipii troops and those Macedon cavalry that was also hitting him there. So really well done to Steve and Gladius there. Really well done for holding the battle line as long as you did, guys. And over here you can see on our left flank here how intense the fighting was on the left flank here by the pile of dead. So as you can see right the way from one flank to the other there, you can see the piles of dead. That bears testament to how fierce and intense the fighting was here in this battle. But as you can see here, it looks like our team has managed to go on to win. Right, as we thought it would be a close victory there. Very close victory, actually. As you can see, say for the units we had left, I thought it would be very close, actually, if this game did very close. Nice kill for Gladius. Yes, he was fighting the big 120-man units, but to get 1,760 kills, really well done to Gladius, and really well done for holding the centre as long as you did, Gladius. Great. Really well done there. And really well done to Steve as well. If you notice, the enemy kills pretty good. If you look at those kills, that's pretty average kills there, which is pretty good for the battle. And that explains why the battle was so close there. So that was pretty good there. As I say, Steve was hit so hard over on that right flank, he probably didn't get the kills that he wanted to, but he was fighting mostly defensive actions there. Let's just have a look at the battle statistics here. So there's Steve's and Cav and my army there. If you could just have a look at the kills there for our urban cohorts and our cavalry there, you'll see that they're not too bad kills there for either of our armies. If you look at those, not too bad. We didn't do too bad there. Cavalry did quite good as well, I think, really there for quite good kills. So that wasn't too bad either. So say it's both of our armies there. Just to say, well done once again to everybody in the game there, and I hope you enjoyed that bit of history, weaponry history about the Spartans. I just thought that would add, hopefully, a little bit more interest to this battle. So it's Spartan Commander saying, hope you enjoyed this battle. Look forward to seeing you soon, and bye for now.